This is Tacoincidence, an unconventional masterclass where we learn secrets of breakthrough culture, brand experience, and human connection from the most brilliant leaders, all while we're on the search for the perfect taco. I met up with Clay Olsen on Taco Tuesday at El Mexiquense in Lehi, Utah. He is a man on a powerful and challenging mission to convince the world that porn kills love and that fighting pornography is cool. As the founder and CEO of the nonprofit organization Fight the New Drug, he is the fighter-in-chief on the battle to empower everyone against the dangers and harmful impact of pornography. I wanted to learn why he believes in the power of culture, brand experience, and human connection, what he does to create it, and how it's helped him thrive. All over tacos. It really doesn't get much better than this.
Well, I'm really excited you're going to Mexico, man.
Yeah.
It's like, and
been to Mexicali. And,
oh yeah,
several kind of border cities in like Colonia de Juarez.
oh yeah.
Just speaking.
The conferences or
Yeah, conferences.
youth, yes.
Yeah, both. All.
Okay.
Both, I'll leave it.
Wow. And so you've been doing this. You've been on the fight for how long?
We started nearly 10 years ago. Actually, this next month is 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that feel to like look back over 10 years of your life and dedication and blood, sweat, tears, looking back at, you know, like what you've accomplished and the movement that you've created and the success you've had?
Yeah, good question. It's very humbling. And I'd say like a profound sense of gratitude for the journey and for what we've been able to learn. And the people that have been a part of this whole movement that have kind of made it what it is because of their impact and influence. So it's just been a cool experience all around, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So how did it even all start for you? Like this was because you were doing something totally different,
Yeah.
running a creative agency, and
Yeah.
and so how does someone get into like being the standard bearer against pornography from a creative agency to where you're at
that's
now?
Probably the most common question I get is like why'd you start this? Like how did? And it's a legitimate and good question, because this isn't something that you kind of think like while you're going to school, like, oh, that's what I want to do. Like
Right.
this isn't like a normal career.
Sure.
Right? So I was doing my creative agency, totally thought that was going to be my life. Got married. My wife kind of thought that was going to be her life too, right? And about 6 months into our marriage, I said that I wanted to, leave it, sell it to my partners, and start a nonprofit to educate young people on the harmful effects of pornography, a very taboo topic that nobody wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like there was no, it was very hard for people to see kind of the reason behind it. And let's say,
Hi.
Hello. Wow.
yes,
Strawberry tacos.
thank you.
And one number 2.
Perfect. Wow. Oh, and you grilled the pineapple. Thank you. Mil gracias, eh?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, so you told your wife. That's where we got distracted by tacos came. We started eating.
Yeah.
So you're like, this is what I want to do. But where did that stem from? Like what?
Yeah. Well, good question. So when I was younger, my cousin, who's quite a bit older than I, struggled with pornography, in a pretty significant way, and he ended up acting out in a way that was very inappropriate and illegal, and he went to prison. And so that was a moment where, I got a glimpse of some of the struggles that people had. And this was, for him, this was pre, he didn't really have a lot of access to the internet, so this was pre-internet for him. And so when I started to talk to my friends about this in college, graduated high school, in college, and knew that he had struggled with this, and that what it had led him to in his life, I kind of thought, well, what is this issue? And is it go beyond personal belief, is there something to this? And if so, my goodness, like my peers, we're dealing with this to an intensity and scale that no generation prior had ever seen. And so I was really curious about it. So we started to do some research, and me and a few buddies started to dive in and understand it more. And it just was like this eye-opening moment where we said, we gotta help people understand the potential risks of this. We gotta start a campaign to inform people of what's going on, because I don't think people realize just to what extent this is impacting young people. So
wow.
And there was nothing, right? Nobody wants to talk about this issue, so there's nothing out there really speaking to my peers, let alone generations younger than us. And so it was kind of a challenge, coming from a marketing agency. I kind of thought, super taboo topic, super difficult issue, super bringing this into public schools, not going to happen kind of thing. And how do we make that cool? How do we make that something that people not only will listen to and hear, but champion and kind of own in some ways, and tap into this youthful-led movement that anyway, so it was a challenge, and I wanted to do something that I felt like made a difference and mattered, and it wasn't a hard decision for me. Honestly, it took me a weekend of contemplating what I should do, and then I was like, I'm in. I'm going to leave this and go start this nonprofit, which I had no understanding of what nonprofits. I had never started a nonprofit. I didn't know nothing about what it would take to sustain a nonprofit, but I was convicted. I was like, oh man. And I was like, we had this among my friends that we started this together. We had this thing, it's like burn the ships. It was kind of like, look, there's no going back.
Right.
We're moving forward, and we're going to make a difference, and we're going to try to do all we can to make a dent in this area. And we're not going back to what it was.
So you start this nonprofit, like you said, you may not feel totally confident in knowing what to do, but you're so driven, charged up about making a difference in the world, and just the challenge of tackling something that no one else wants to touch. Yeah. So how do you even what does that look like? How does the ideation of okay, did you guys think we want to create a movement? We want to make fighting against pornography cool? What how
I don't even know how at that time. I don't even know how baked it really was, to be honest. I remember, we came up with a brand, and we came up with kind of a Facebook page, and
that was Fight the New Drug.
Yeah,
back then, 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
That's always been your name.
It's always been our name.
This idea of you're bringing people on this. It's it's an action word, right? And so it's Fight the New Drug. It causes lots of curiosity. What is the new drug? And what am I fighting? And, should I be fighting? Well, what? So, I think it's brilliant. How did this come about?
Have the word porn in it so that people wouldn't search the very thing that we were trying to accidentally stumble upon, the thing that we were trying to tell them to avoid. So
right, it's not like Porn Awareness Society, right?
Yeah, so all those things you described is exactly kind of the premise or the impetus for that name. We thought we wanted something intriguing. We wanted something action-oriented. The title of our organization is actually a call to action. It's join us.
This rally cry.
New drug, right?
Yeah.
There was also a lot of new research at the time indicating the harmful effects of pornography neurologically, and so we were that was a new kind of spin. We were very familiar with campaigns like the DARE campaign or Truth campaign against tobacco, and we wanted something that was intriguing, that kind of lent itself to something that we could see in schools, and that if you saw it on a billboard or side of a bus or something, you'd be like, what is that? And
curiosity
would be piqued, and you'd want to find out more. And it's also a rally cry. So that was the name, the reason for the name. And we started, and I remember we didn't have any funds. No one told us, we didn't have any money to do anything. So
is your wife how are we going to feed ourselves? And
yeah, totally. She was way more forward thinking than I was. I was like, bring the shrimp, let's do this. Yeah.
Getting going. And
we had no funding. I remember trying to figure out like how we're going to do this. We did everything from phone-a-thons with our friends. Like we did door-to-door knocking.
Oh yeah, that's fun times. Yeah,
literally went door-to-door, and we're not supposed to. You have to have permits for that. We didn't know that, so we just went door-to-door knocking and didn't make anything. We finally held an event at Little America where we got the governor of Utah to come and other people and raise some awareness, which then led us to find our first donor, Roger Boyer of the Boyer Company in Salt Lake City, and that changed everything. All of a sudden, we had enough to actually dedicate full time. It was just me at the time, so we had enough to hire one person, and it was me. So I jumped in, and literally it was me in like an empty space office and with a computer, trying to figure out who we were. Because you said like, well, did you know you wanted to do X, Y, and Z? It's like, no, we didn't know anything. Like I started writing up like a creed and a pledge, and like I was thinking, okay, how are we going to shape this? How are we going to connect with young people and resonate with them on this difficult topic? And I got a phone call from a school counselor who said, "Is this Fight the New Drug?" I'd never received a phone call from anybody about Fight the New Drug, so I was like so proud. I was like, "Yes, this is Fight the New Drug. How can I help you?" He's like my cell phone, and he's like, "Well, do you do school presentations?" I'd never thought about doing school presentations. I'm like, of course we do. Yes, absolutely we do.
All the time.
You make it, right? All the time. Amen.
I'll see if I can fit you in my schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see if I got some openings. And he's like, can you come this day? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So I hung up the phone, and that started this like complete blitz on what the heck I'm going to say to these high school kids.
Yeah.
And since then, that was at least good enough to get the next and the next and the next.
Yeah.
Thousands now over the years with multiple presenters in multiple countries and
multiple languages,
and it's been.
You've presented in Spanish.
I have, yes, not well, but yes, I have. So yeah, it's been a journey. And you talked about branding. Like branding was at the core. And the experience of Fighting Drug was at the core, even at the very beginning. Even though we weren't sure exactly what the tentacles were going to look like, how we were going to like specifically speak to them, we knew that from an experiential standpoint, those that engaged with our material, our brand in any way, we knew that like that was going to be the linchpin to connecting with this generation.
What exactly does that brand experience look like for you?
Yeah.
And for Fight the New Drug?
I would say that with Fight the New Drug, and with any organization really, branding starts with culture. I think you've got to really focus in on your organization's culture internally, because that's going to then permeate externally.
Totally.
Everything you do. You can't fake that. And so... we had a culture, even though we weren't necessarily very conscious. We weren't like reading culture books and like implementing these 5 strategies into our organization. We were just kind of like running. But the natural culture that was developing within our organization really is what kind of like manifests itself in the branding experience that people saw and started to engage with. So, our culture was really steeped in kind of righting social wrong and kind of this burn the ships mentality, this kind of rally cry where we are collectively. There's an incredible buy-in to the mission. The level of passion and dedication and innovation that can is bred through that experience is you can't force that innovation. You can't incentivize that innovation. That comes out of sheer human will, and that's something that really has helped drive Fight the New Drug. Those that are engaged in Fight the New Drug, from an employment standpoint and from the kind of the larger following standpoint, the level of passion and dedication to the mission far exceeds any sort of loyalty to a specific logo. And that's what we rally behind. The logo is simply kind of a visual cue to the mission. We could change the logo and the mission would still be there, and that's what we're about. And so I think it starts there. I think it starts with culture. And I think that also really getting familiar for us, really getting familiar with who we're targeting. You know, you talk to entrepreneurs all the time, and they say, like, "Okay, so who's your target market?" And they said, "Well, you know, our software or our thing, it's for everybody." He's like, "Okay, you know, like, yeah, I hate hearing like it's for everybody." There is a truth to that. Like, hey, this message needs to be heard by everybody. That doesn't change the fact that we got so pinpointed on who our demographic was, who our target market was, that we created a fake persona.
Yeah.
He has a name.
What's his name?
His name's Josh.
Okay.
He lives in Southern California.
Okay.
We have a whole profile, 40 pages of who this kid is. He's 17 years old.
Okay.
We know what his playlists are, which, by the way, evolve each year.
He's still 17, though, right?
He's perpetually 17. And he's also perpetually undecided on whether or not he's going to follow our movement. He's perpetually kind of...
He's curious about it.
He's curious. He's not decided against or for. And so we're perpetually trying to convince Josh...
Put him over the edge.
Push him over the edge. And so, yes, we want to talk to young adults in college. Yes, we want to connect with parents and help them educate them. But Josh is our core. Josh is our focal point. And so we, in our organization, we're constantly saying, would Josh like that? What would Josh say? And I'm, you know, as I age, I'm perpetually aging, you know, where we all are. But Josh never does. So, you know, I have to rely less on my own gut intuition as far as like what is cool, what is hip, what is going to connect. And I have to relying on who Josh is today versus who he was yesterday.
And then like architecting everything you do, like your strategies, your outreach, your advocacy, your everything to target this Josh demographic.
Yes.
So what does that look like now? Like if you were to describe the brand experience of Fight the New Drug for Josh, what does that look like? What does it what does it feel like? What does it sound like for Josh?
Well,
with Fight the New Drug.
There are people that have joined said movement and are kind of in his peripheral vision saying, let's do this, let's get on board. But Josh is he's kind of in his own lane and he's comfortable in that lane. And so we want to influence that. And so we do that through a variety of different creative avenues, everything through a podcast to, we've written books. We have a lot of online efforts and social media efforts. And we position ourselves more like a creative agency. We're constantly producing content that we can kind of graze his world and have some impact on his perception on what is normal and what is healthy.
Yeah.
Well, for us at Fight the New Drug, we're speaking to youth, right? For a lot of our messaging, we speak to youth, and so we knew early on that we needed to kind of frame our message to resonate with that. In fact, when we started nearly 10 years ago, we did a survey. And we asked individuals, youth. We were able to get respondents that were in that age range. And we asked them in one word to describe what they thought of anti-porn and porn culture, or pornography. And they described pornography as hip, cool, young, fresh, rebellious, and like a cool stick-to-the-man kind of way. And they described anti-porn as like old, outdated, not cool, super judgmental, all these things. And we're like, oh my goodness, this is like right as we were starting, we're like, oh my goodness, we've got an uphill battle. Which one do you think youth want to connect with more or resonate with more?
Right.
And which one is like social suicide to associate with? So
right.
We were like, okay, all right. And again, as a marketing guy, as a filmmaker, as a brand guy, I was like very much like, okay, this is an intriguing challenge. Like, can we make this cool for young people to kind of not only connect with, but resonate with and champion, as I said earlier. So that started us down the path to say, okay, let's take a cue from porn and porn culture, that everything that embodies that in their mind, and kind of spin it over to the other category, which is anti-porn, and say, okay, we need to make this cool, hip, young, fresh, awesome. And
so, what have you found in all of your advocacy work that has made the experience with Fight the New Drug so effective?
I think that's kind of the beauty of it, is that I think that Fight the New Drug has been as successful as it is, partly due to the fact that sometimes I say we didn't start a movement. The movement was already there. The electricity of interest was there. We kind of organized it through a brand, because the reality is that this issue is more pervasive and harmful than any other time in human history, and everybody has a story. Everybody. And so when we say kind of what messages speak to, what's the most powerful message, it's interesting because different messages speak to different people. When we talk about the pornography's connection to different societal ills, including sex trafficking and other forms of exploitation, for a lot of people, that's the light under their seat.
Resonates.
They need to kind of say, you know what, that's it. I don't want to support that kind of cruelty or violence or objectification or trafficking, and therefore, what can I do to right that wrong? For other people, it's the more intimate connections with them and their close ones, and saying like, look, this has been proven through research and studies that this is going to influence that very most important, precious relationship, and I don't want that to impact that, and so I'm going to resonate and kind of rise above and fight for real love and connection. Because fighting the drug is really more of a movement for a variety of things than it is against anything. So it's for real love and real connection. It's for people, fighting for those that are seeking freedom and needing support and help and resources, and it's for those that are being victimized and that need a voice, that don't have one. And so, fighting the drugs is really about rising up culturally and kind of linking arms to say, this has completely engulfed our culture and society in a way that is wreaking havoc. And we need to kind of rise up for all of these areas and people that are dealing with this in all different categories and move in a better direction.
Yeah, and something that resonates with them on a personal level. And I mean, I really like what you said about, yes, it is about fighting the harmful effects of pornography, but I love that you said it's more about like creating real connection.
Yeah.
Love that's like lost in our society. How have you seen that message resonate powerfully with people that you talk to?
Yeah. When we first started, our focus wasn't necessarily on love. It was just more on like, here are the harms of pornography, here's the research.
Right.
And over time, we saw that it really kind of boiled down to our connections with people. More particularly our intimate connections, but it goes way beyond that. Like all of our connections, and as we started to frame the messaging around those connections in love and relationships, we started to see a massive shift in people's passion for the message. And their willingness to hear it, because that's where the rubber hits the road, and it kind of hit close to home for a lot of people. And so love is where we all find a lot of joy in life, right? Love with our peers, our friends, our family. That's where so much happiness is found, and when something is shown to kind of impact that negatively, you want to know. You want to be aware so you can move in a better direction.
Yeah, for sure. It's as I've talked with business leaders and others, we're in this society of where we're so hyper connected with our screens and with social media and with everything else going on, that we are really disconnected and lack a lot of what you're saying. From many business leaders I talk about are, those that are really forward thinking are combating that in whatever their business is about, whether it's shoes or socks or software or granola bars or whatever it is. They're bringing about like this connection with real meaningful interaction and connection with people. And as you're doing this with your organization, it's like, it seems like on even a higher level, you're impacting people's lives forever.
But I think that you're touching on a very key point, and that is that any brand, when we talk about brand experience, needs to connect their customer with whatever they're selling, with their product. And whether your product is actually love, or your product is shoes or tacos, if you can't connect with your customer on an emotional level, and provide that experience that perpetuates that emotional connection, the best brands, that's what they succeed at. That's what they do.
Yep.
And if you can't achieve that, you're not going to have nearly the impact or grow nearly to the level that you could otherwise.
Is there any particular story that stands out about how you've impacted people individually, personally? I'm sure there's countless.
One of these experiences that I want to share that I think is pretty cool is a guy named Garrett Johnson who he had a level of ownership into kind of the movement and wanted to make a difference. He put on one of our T-shirts, and every day for 30 days he ran a marathon in a row, sequentially, 30 days, and he wore handcuffs every day, symbolizing the addictive nature of pornography and breaking through.
While he was running?
While he was running. So 30 marathons in 30 days. After he
handcuffed.
Finished, it's interesting. People kind of think, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. Now, I'm not saying people need to run 30 marathons in 30 days, but he used his own capacity, his own desire, and got creative with the movement and decided, this is how I'm going to do it. And this is how I'm going to share this message. And I thought it was a beautiful example, and there's so many others that I could share. So I'm changed by their stories. And I think that we forget how much influence we can have. One of my favorite quotes of all time is by a man named Edward Everett Hale. And he said that, I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something, and I will not let what I cannot do interfere with what I can do.
How has that felt to you personally, from a fulfillment perspective?
It's been, words probably can't describe it. Again, humbling and the sense of gratitude. Just, when we started this back in college 10 years ago, we wanted to do something, wanted to make it done, and to see where it's gone. Again, not by through our own hands, but through the hands of the fighters, where we've seen it go is beyond any of our imagination, beyond what we thought was possible. And
so what does the future hold for Fight the New Drug? What is this year looking like? What do the next several years look like?
I think that we're taking this our brand, and we're kind of expanding it internationally. We're doing a lot of work. We just got back from Nepal and Spain and Guatemala and Mexico, and so we're really looking to kind of take a lot of the content material and translate it. We have our website translated into 5 languages right now, and we're working on others. We're certifying presenters in those countries, so there's local support to present that message. And we just released a 3-part documentary series that we're going to be translating into multiple languages to really scale faster than we otherwise could. And
so you've had this tremendous impact, and it's only increasing. To what do you attribute 2 or 3 things to that level of success that you've had in building this movement that people have signed on to? They're fighters.
Yeah. Probably 3 things that have really made a difference for us is, one is a healthy sense of naivety. That's going to sound a little funny, but if somebody would have told me, some of the challenge that we would have faced or the difficulties we would have had getting off the ground, starting a nonprofit, not knowing anything about that world, and trying to grow this national and international organization, and all the complications and challenges that come along with, and then to sort of apply to anybody, any entrepreneur trying to start anything really. Sometimes we, entrepreneurs are a special breed, because sometimes, other people will just logically walk away saying it's not worth it.
Right?
I'm looking at what's ahead, and I'd rather just go get this 9 to 5, right? But sometimes there's this healthy dose of naivety that allows you to kind of be blind to some of those issues and take this attitude of whatever it takes, and I'm in it for the long haul. And I still hope to. I hope to never lose that healthy sense of naivety, because it allows you to go places where others wouldn't, and do things. And without that, are you really going to achieve anything very innovative and just extreme?
Cool.
Number 2, I'd say persistence. There will be so many moments on your journey that you want to throw in the towel, and it makes sense to throw in the towel. And there's opportunities that await you that are far better and kind of more secure that allow you to throw in that towel. But I think one of the biggest differences between successful entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that kind of dip their toe and kind of don't really ever get off the ground is this kind of attitude of continue to keep going, get back up.
Yeah.
You get hit on this side, you pivot, you figure it out on this side, and there is never a quit kind of a thing. So that's number two. Number three, I would say team. I think that getting the right team involved. I always say that when I'm hiring, people with a cause specifically, there's people that come out of the woodwork saying, like, I'll take out the garbages, I'll do whatever it takes, like, just get me involved. And I ask this question to a lot of people. I say, so if there was two people in front of you, one was just passionate beyond description, and they want to help in whatever way they can, and you got another person that is like, they're on board, but they're not like crazy passionate. But this person is like passionate about their craft, and this person, is just, they'll figure out the craft. Which one do you hire? All day long, every day, this guy. Because passion is kind of something that can ebb and flow, and everything turns into a job eventually. You got to find people that are passionate about their craft, that at the end of the day, they can't wait to kind of solve that new challenge, that issue, and hit that. The passion for the cause or whatever can grow inside as they understand the issue more, but they've got to love what they do, and they've got to do it better than anybody else. And so team is a huge piece of like creating a successful company. And then the last one I'd say is that we have a mantra at our organization is home runs, not base hits. There's so many efforts, particularly in the nonprofit space, but in any space, there's kind of like okay with mediocrity, okay with kind of like saying, well, this is good enough. And whenever possible, we're saying like, let's swing for the fence. Go all the way, home runs, and that includes like the design, the branding, the experience, everything that person, the customer touches or engages with. Like, how can you go all the way with it? How can you create a home run experience, not a base hit experience? And if you can combine those things, I know they're vague, but like if you can combine those, I mean, you have a recipe for success for sure.
That's so awesome. Well, I mean, congratulations on the success that you've had. It's amazing to see and to be a part of as well, and to see you guys what you've done to take something and like you said, you're completely switched the roles there, and the description that people have of porn and anti-porn. Well, thanks again for taking the time and for sharing your story with such like raw emotion and just real passion. You're changing lives, and it's very real. And 10 years, like looking back, gosh, that's got to feel pretty amazing.
Special thanks to our host El Mexiquense for creating the ideal place for us to talk about breakthrough culture, brand experience, and human connection. Handmade tortillas were impressive, and the grilled pineapple was a nice touch on the pastor tacos for sure. Join the taco journey on my website. You are not going to want to miss out on the resources, courses, and of course the National Taco Tour I'm planning when I launch the book, Search for the Perfect Taco. So follow me on social media, subscribe to my channel, and tune in to another episode of Tacoincidence, where we'll continue to explore the secrets to level up your culture, brand experience, human connection, and your taco game. Okay, just throwing this in here. El Pilon.
Dude, this looks really delicious. So I'm that guy. I take pictures. I have to.
Yeah, well, it's
part of my duty.
The best taco. You gotta document, right?
Exactly. It's my duty, man. I feel like when my nieces and nephews, they're like, "This is Uncle Scott eating tacos." They like pretend. So, which, by the way, we got to do a selfie too. Here we go. Yeah. Awesome. They do it right for you?
Yeah, the tortillas are really good.
They're homemade. I'm impressed. I mean, I kind of think you have to do homemade tortillas. It's just your duty. I mean, you run a taco shop. That's what responsibility you're signing up for.
Yeah.
You gotta make, exactly.